Last Sunday, on August 6, 2023, the 7-day deadline set by ECOWAS to return Niger to normalcy or face possible military intervention came to an end. Niger's military junta, led by former head of the Presidential Guard, General Abdurrahman Chiani, has refused to budge.
D'une part, à la dégradation continue de la situation sécuritaire de notre pays.
With the fourth member state falling to yet another coup since 2020, all eyes are now on ECOWAS and its next steps. This is Amani Africa Dispatch, our video cast on current political governance and peace and security affairs of continental and multilateral policy importance. The last Central Sahelian country fell prey to a military coup. On 26 July 2023, the Presidential Guard blockaded Niger's elected president Mohamed Bazoum, setting in motion another coup d'etat in the Sahel. The same day, the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Homeland, CNSP, formed by senior officials from various defense and security force branches, announced the seizure of power in a televised address. On July 27, the Nigerian armed forces voiced support to the coup and CNSP. On July 28, General Abdurrahman Chiani was confirmed as head of state. On August 7, the junta appointed former finance minister Lamin Zain as the prime minister.
Your presence here reflects your commitment to democracy.
The regional body, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, was swift to condemn the coup attempt. The African Union and the United Nations similarly expressed their strong condemnation of the coup. The UN Security Council issued a statement. The African Union Peace and Security Council, after an emergency session on July 28, adopted a communique, giving 15 days for the junta to restore constitutional order. Going further and taking a tougher stance, the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit on July 30 slapped Niger with a raft of sanctions, including the closure of land and air borders and the suspension of financial and commercial transactions.
Such measures may include the use of force.
Exhausting all its cards at once, ECOWAS gave Niger 1 week to reinstate President Bazoum against the threat of the use of force. From the 2nd to the 4th of August, the ECOWAS Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff met in Abuja to discuss the situation in Niger. In doing so, ECOWAS took a firm lead in the effort to address the latest blow that Niger's coup dealt the region. Parallel to the sanctions and the threat of the use of force, ECOWAS had sent 3 delegations. The third, led by former Nigerian Army General Abdul Salami Abubakar, was sent on August 6. It was prevented from leaving Niamey Airport even after 5 hours of negotiations, and returned to Nigeria without meeting the coup leaders. Failing several attempts at ensuring a conclusive and amicable resolution for the situation in Niger, the 7-day deadline from ECOWAS expired last Sunday, on August 6, 2023. Begging the question, will ECOWAS really intervene militarily in Niger? The decision of ECOWAS was met with mixed reactions from Niger and neighboring countries. Niger's junta has condemned the ECOWAS decision to use military force. The coup leaders have dismissed the sanctions as inhumane and have vowed to resist them. Instead of attracting support, the measures adopted by ECOWAS steered nationalist fervor of the Nigerian public, making it easier for the junta to galvanize the public support. As the massive demonstration staged on August 3 in support of the junta shows, the diplomatic effort led by ECOWAS to reinstate President Bazoum was left on very shaky grounds. Bereft of significant backing from Nigerians, its success became exclusively dependent on the willingness of ECOWAS countries to follow through with their threat. Implications on peace and security. It's not completely unprecedented for ECOWAS to rely on the use of force to advance the cause of democracy. In all the previous cases, such as in the Gambia in 2017, force was used for facilitating transfer of power from an incumbent who lost democratic election to a winning candidate, and in the context of a widespread public support for such action. There are not cases, at least since the turn of the century, in which force was deployed as a means of reversing military coup. Beyond the legal question and the legitimacy gap, the threat of the use of force for reversing military coup in the particular context of Niger also raises vexing public policy questions. Most notably, it carries grave risks for the peace and security of both Niger and the entire region. A military intervention could lead to widespread violence and instability. Niger's army shall not in any way be considered as a weak adversary. It has a strong experience in fighting terrorists and non-state armed groups, trained by France and the US and equipped heavily by the latter. Military intervention is unlikely to lead to a short and clean outcome that secures its end state.
Image forte pour le Burkina Faso et le Mali, celle de ces soldats en charge des deux nations arrivés au pouvoir par des putschs.
Additionally, after the joint announcement by the two other Sahelian countries under military rule, Burkina Faso and Mali, that military intervention in Niger amounts to a declaration of war against them, ECOWAS military intervention risks to trigger regionalized war. Any military intervention that targets and weakens Niger's army also exposes Niger to the danger of collapse. With an army battered by a fight with forces from neighboring countries, Niger will easily be overrun by the armed terrorist groups operating in the Sahel. A collapsed Niger would leave a gaping hole in the middle of the Sahel with disastrous security consequences for the entire region for many years to come. The success of a potential military intervention in Niger, defined in terms of reinstating President Bazoum back to power, is also doubtful. With the elected president and his family in detention by Niger's junta, increased pressure by ECOWAS involving military intervention could put the life of the president and his family in grave jeopardy. Now what? With the expiry of the deadline it has given, ECOWAS is now gearing for another extraordinary summit to be held in Abuja on August 10, 2023. While circumstances proved unfavorable for its efforts to succeed, ECOWAS should find consolation from the fact that it tried its very best. It used all the instruments of pressure under its disposal and held back nothing. In the face of the grave dangers associated with and the lack of public support, including in Nigeria, for military intervention, policymakers should accept that there are no good options for responding to the coup in Niger. This means that ECOWAS, as well as the African Union, need to settle for options that may not lead to the most ideal outcome, reinstatement of President Bazoum. In any case, such is an outcome whose sustainability and value for democracy cannot in any way be guaranteed, given the lack of public support. This is Amani Africa Dispatch, our video cast on current political governance and peace and security affairs of continental and multilateral policy importance.